Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later on in the program, a one-on-one with Amy Oliver about why moms care about debt. Would you believe that moms care about debt? Yes, they do. But first, the state is facing a landmark law case that could be really expensive for us. From the Attorney General's office, Geoff Blue, thanks for spending some time with us.
My pleasure, John. It's good to be here.
All right, so this is known as the Lobato case. Which is some sort of Mexican dance, and I learned it in college. It was very helpful. Why is there a lawsuit over this dance?
Well, it's not necessarily a dance, but the case will turn into a bit of a dance between the parties.
This is an education-related financing lawsuit, and it is huge, and it's against the state.
It is, and if the state loses this case, plaintiffs have asked the court, they've told the court they can do three things. One, they can say that TABOR must give way to the education clause in the Constitution, and therefore the court can order the legislature to raise taxes. Two, the court could take all the funding out of the budget and shift it all over into education. Or three, they could shift money amongst the different school districts to improve education in various districts. The problem is that they're saying that our education system is underfunded by $3 billion. Last year we had a $6.9 billion budget, of which $3.2 billion was education. So in other words, what they're saying is that $6.2 billion of our budget last year should have gone to education.
Let me put this in English to see if I understand. From a 30,000-foot viewpoint, this case, we're going to get into the details, but this Lobato case says that we, the state of Colorado, are not spending enough money on K-12 education. And in order to get to where we need to be, we need to spend basically double what we're spending now. Basically 100% of the discretionary budget in the entire state needs to be gobbled up and given to K-12 education. That if this is successful, that every penny we earn in taxes is going to turn around and go to K-12 education. Potentially it's that large. Am I overstating it?
No, matter of fact, I think you're almost understating it, but in the sense of the amount that they're also saying that we could be forced to raise taxes as well, so which I think is an even worse scenario at the end of the day. I don't know which is worse, but they're both really bad.
The courts would order the state to raise taxes without a vote of the people.
Conceivably they could. The argument that is made by the plaintiffs is that TABOR must give way to this other provision of the Constitution that they say guarantees a certain level of funding in education.
Right. Let's start at the beginning then. Who's Lobato?
Lobato is well, there's a child named Lobato, and it's his mother and him are two of the plaintiffs in the case. They have sued the state saying that we are not providing a thorough and uniform education, and that term thorough and uniform is in the Constitution.
In the state constitution, the state has to provide a thorough and uniform education to all kids.
Correct.
All right. What thorough and uniform means is quite up to interpretation.
It's a completely open question. And we had won a case several years ago by saying this is not an issue for the courts, it's an issue for the elected representatives of the state to decide about how we should fund education. And we had won that case. Well, they took it up again. They brought a new case, and it went up to the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Mary Malarkey and her majority found that no, this isn't a decision that we can make, and we have the final say in the constitutionality of what a thorough and uniform education is.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that? I love our Supreme Court. They get to be the legislature when they want to.
Right.
All right. So now the plaintiffs are saying you're not spending enough money on education. By what means? I understand that there is this responsibility that the state has to give education, thorough and uniform. That's the qualification to every kid in Colorado. How are they arguing that that's not happening right now?
They're saying that essentially what they're saying is that we rank 49th out of 50 states in the level of education funding. And therefore,
which of course is a big old fib, but we'll get into that.
And that's a different issue. But, and that we don't have they have a study done by a firm that they hired for $150,000 or something like that, that says if you take all the things that the legislature has said that we want to do for education and fully fund them, we're underfunded by $3 billion. Yeah,
so
that's the argument.
Let me see if I got this. Plaintiffs went up and said, we got ourselves a study that says we're underfunded.
Correct. And an interesting thing about the firm that did that study, they've been doing these studies for 25 years. They've been in these lawsuits for 25 years. There have been lawsuits in 40 states over this kind of thing. Dozens of them have won. Not a single one can that firm point to where their prediction, where their calculations were accurate after the fact.
In other words, that if that much money got there, that there was enough money?
That the education outcomes would improve the way they said they should.
All right. So here we are at the state, and there are a lot of people under that gold dome who are very sympathetic to education, very sympathetic to the teachers union, who are looking at this case going, oh my God, if this thing passes, we have something here called Amendment 23, which says every year we have to spend more and more on K-12 education,
Correct.
even if it busts the budget, even if we don't have a penny to coming in revenue, we still have to spend more than what we did last year on K-12 education. And that's tying their hands. To put that, this really takes Amendment 23 and puts it on steroids. Would that be a good way to put it?
That's exactly what's going to happen if they win.
All
It
right.
will tie the hands of the legislature about what they can do with their budget beyond the 45% of the budget it currently eats up at this time to almost 90-95% of the budget.
Give me an idea of the players in this. I understand that you work for Jon Suthers. He's elected as our Attorney General. He is the state's lawyer. That'd be the best way to put it. Whether it's the Secretary of State or the Treasurer or the Governor or the legislature, he's the in-house counsel. Whatever these guys do, you have to, and you and your boss have to defend. So even this is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter whether Jon is an R or a D. He is an R, but if he was a D, he'd still have to defend the state.
Yes, he would. And the only thing I would kind of just qualify what you said is we don't represent the legislature.
Okay.
They have their own lawyers. Otherwise, the Attorney General represents the entire state, and to some extent, we represent the legislature in the sense we defend laws that are
Laws
enacted.
that have been passed. Laws that have been signed into effect by the governor. All right.
And I would point out that Governor Hickenlooper is the defendant in this case. He's a Democrat, and he is supporting us fully in this in defending the lawsuit.
So give me an idea of the players. My guess is it's not just Ms. Lobato and her son. I'm guessing there's a whole mess of plaintiffs. Would I be right?
There are a whole mess of plaintiffs. The majority of them come from the Valley. The San Luis Valley. The plaintiffs include children, their parents, and a couple of organizations such as the Association of School Boards, Association of School Executives, and then a number of school districts, including some of the biggest ones in the state, such as Jefferson County, Aurora, Boulder, those kinds.
All right, well, let me see. So on this plaintiffs list, you've got parents, you've got the Colorado Association of School Boards, CASB. You've got Case, the superintendents.
Yeah, superintendents.
They're plaintiffs.
Right.
And then you have, I could understand school districts in that valley if they're representing those kids, but you're telling me Jeffco, the largest school district by far in the state, followed by Boulder and others, are joining into this. Because if this wins, they become awash in money.
That's the idea. And what's really scary about this is people don't understand that we are spending a lot of money in our office defending against this lawsuit. Taxpayer money is funding the plaintiffs because the school districts are putting money in. Not only the plaintiff school districts, but the, quote, supporter school districts who are listed on these guys' website, who have all given money. And the plaintiffs went out and the plaintiffs' lawyers, who are the true believers of the issue, went out and pitched them and said, this is to improve you, this is great for you guys, you're going to increase your funding, and all we ask of each of you is $1 per pupil. Now, doesn't sound like a lot until you think about the fact that Jeffco has 800,000 students.
It doesn't have
80,000.
80,000 students.
And they gave $80,000.
All right. So in other words, let me see if I got this. We're in a budget crunch, a pretty serious budget crunch. And so I'm paying for you guys to defend the state. At the same time, I'm paying for those guys to sue you.
Yes.
So I've got Colorado governments suing Colorado governments, and either way, it's going to be expensive for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's good stuff.
Pretty
All right,
much.
We've only got a few minutes, so let's get down to it. Who's on the other side of the team? Obviously, it's the governor who's being sued. Your boss is the lawyer. Anybody else that is on the target list?
The Department of Education is named, but essentially it's just the state, and it's the Attorney General's office defending the lawsuit.
Okay.
It's really us and our team of 4 lawyers defending it.
What's at the heart of it? If you boil this down to its very essence, what is at the heart of this case that could destroy the Colorado budget?
Well, there's two pieces to the case. One, are our kids getting a thorough and uniform education? And two, if not, is money the answer? And they kind of intertwine together, because the question is, the argument from the plaintiffs is that we're not getting a thorough and uniform education because we're not providing enough money, therefore you got to provide enough more money. So they intertwine with one another. The problem is that there is no or very, very little empirical evidence that money is the solution. Matter of fact, there's a lot of evidence these days that money is not the solution. And frankly, I brought a chart from the Cato Institute that I find to be very interesting. It shows from 1970 to 2000 and I think it's through 2005. It charts spending on education versus math and reading scores, and the blue line is spending, red is math, red is reading, and green is math. And if you look at this, you see how it works. Right. Education spending has skyrocketed, and
this is the money, and these are the test scores.
And the test scores haven't changed. So it doesn't work. The problem is the system itself is broken. It isn't about money, and pouring money into a broken system doesn't solve the problem.
Yes, it does. Where's the teachers union on this? Are they any of the plaintiffs? Are they putting any money into this?
You know,
I would imagine they're pretty happy about this.
I don't know if they are the plaintiffs, but I'm sure they're very happy about this case.
If the school districts want more money, through law, we have that ability to get them more money. We can raise our taxes. The state legislature can put on tax increases. The local districts can put up mill levy increases. All they need to do is ask us. That's what the state constitution says. Wouldn't that be easier than this?
It would. And as a matter of fact, Senator Raleigh Heath has proposed such an initiative this year to raise taxes specifically to fund education and higher education. So clearly there is a path to do it. They've been losing, and so they're trying to legislate through the courts.
And the courts get to decide whether or not we go bust.
Yes.
Lovely. All right, got a minute less. Tell me how does this play out? What's next in this important case?
We have trial in August. My guess is it'll be a several-week trial, and we'll get a decision from Judge Rappaport in Denver County District Court. That will be appealed to the district court, which will then, whoever loses will file a petition to the Colorado Supreme Court to weigh in on it as well. I would imagine that it would be weighed in on. It's kind of an interesting scenario because of the fact that Justice Marquez it will not be able to participate because she was part of the defense before she was appointed. So it's going to be a 6-panel Supreme Court when it goes up. So.
And this goes to the state Supreme Court, and it'll probably be a year or so before we even get an inkling.
To the state Supreme Court could be a couple of years.
Interesting. We'll keep on top of it. Geoff Blue from the AG's office, thank you. Stay tuned.